Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another weekly episode of Everything Vaguely Paranormal. As always, I am Blake Smith, and with me is my partner. Well, I'm going to say partners in the paranormal, Miss Shelley Pruitt, and the fake Ryan, Mr. Chad Wandell.
Hi, Mr. Wandell.
Hello.
Yes, once again, Ryan is absent.
Child.
This time, he's in the hospital this time. He decided he was going to stick his penis inside a light socket this time.
Now it looks like
The
Freddy
smell
Krueger.
Yeah, the smell
I
of
know.
burnt hair is in the air, child.
Yep, it is. So he's not arrested. He is recovering. He is out already. Me and Shelley have both spoken to him, but he will be not making an appearance because he is at home.
Bandaged.
Bandaged and doctoring his
Like a little pig in a blanket.
All wrapped up nice and neat.
My little kolache.
Yes.
My little kolache.
I wonder how often he has to put on ointment on it. Ointment.
I don't know.
Everybody
How many
hates
times?
that word.
Yeah, how many times did he have to change some bandages? And yeah, do you
I
think
bet
that
he's peeling
never
them off
mind.
real careful.
I'm not going to ask any further questions because this gets some real dark territory. I was about to ask. I wonder if the ointment's the only thing he puts on it, but that's just some weird questioning.
Puts the lotion on his skin.
He puts the lotion on his skin. Gets the hose again.
I think he did that before he got the little burn.
Yeah, probably. He did.
Oh my
How
God.
are y'all? How are y'all doing this evening, though?
Doing good.
Awesome.
Good.
I'm ready to learn about some Halloween.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Out of all the years that we've been doing the freaking podcast, like I sat here and I was like, what is something we have not covered? Well, every year we have the opportunity to cover something about Halloween because we typically do the Tuesday before Halloween. I was like, I'm gonna do the freaking history of Halloween. That's what I'm gonna do. So yeah, I'm excited about this. I was there's a few stories in here about things that we still celebrate today. That go back all the way to like ancient times. Yeah. Sorry if you thought this was all commercialization, modernization, and all that stuff. I'm here to tell you, the belief that it is the devil's holiday is very strong. So beware of letting your children out, especially around Shelley's house, because she will have them possessed before the end of the night.
Speaking of possession, Mr. Wandell, do you have your beverage for the evening?
Oh Jesus, y'all are drinking.
Shall we start now, sir? Salute.
Oh,
This is my second one.
Lord.
I just got started. I'm having
Mountain cello.
Well, since y'all are getting good and toasty, why don't
I'm
we
having
just
a little Jefferson.
let me get a sip of water. The only saint on this screen right now.
Where?
We all have our own versions of sin, my son.
That's right, my love. Some of us sin a little more loudly than others.
The only saint on
And I've
the
had the
screen
cops
drinking
called on
water.
us. What?
I've always wanted to do that.
Okay,
The
on
cops
that,
called on me
listen,
twice. Once
we're gonna
in
get
foreign
lost in
country.
conversation.
No, sorry.
we have a whole episode to cover tonight. We do not have time for the shenanigans. We have that for Patreon. If you want to know more about it, go to Patreon.
You need to be on Patreon.
Become a member now.
Yeah, become a member. now.
Literally right now.
No, not right now. They're watching the
Oh, yeah,
episode
yeah,
right now.
wait,
No,
wait.
Afterwards, we'll tell you. at the very end how
Multitask,
to-
people.
how to be-
Multitask.
That's
how
why
to
you
be
got
a
all the
member.
tabs open.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's jump in to the history of Halloween because this is an exciting one. I can't wait to hear y'all's take on some of this stuff. So, all right, it's the final breath of October. The air is sharp. The leaves have thinned to brittle lace, and the last warmth of the harvest fades beneath the darkening sky. Candles flicker in windows. It's my favorite time of the year, by the way. The smell of smoke and damp earth hangs in the air. It's a night unlike any other. The one night where, according to ancient whispers, the veil between the living and dead grows thin. Today, we call it Halloween. But long before children wandered through neighborhoods asking for sweets, before pumpkins grinned from doorsteps, and before the word Halloween ever existed, there was something far older. A festival of endings and beginnings, a night of fire, shadow, and remembrance. Our modern traditions, carving lanterns, wearing disguises, gathering under moonlight, don't appear out of nowhere. That is really weird that you both decided to mute your mics and cough at the same time. Are y'all being possessed? I'm just curious.
Could be.
Okay.
One of us.
One of us. One of
Could be
us.
us. Could be a demon.
Damn. I'm not even through the fucking introduction yet. All right. Well, anyways, these traditions don't appear out of nowhere. They are echoes. Fragments of rituals and beliefs passed through centuries, reshaped by religion, migration, and time itself. What began as a sacred marking of the changing seasons slowly evolved into celebration we know today. But how did a Celtic harvest rite transform into a night of costumes and candy? How did a time meant to honor the dead become one spent chasing laughter and fear in equal measure? And what traces of the ancient world still hide behind the masks we wear today? Beneath every carved pumpkin and playful scare lingers something older, a memory of humanity, a memory that humanity has carried for thousands of years. Halloween at its core has always been about more than fright or fun. It's about the unknown, about our connection to those who came before us, about the thin space between worlds and the way we've always tried to make sense of it. And so as the night deepens and the veil begins to stir, we turn back to where it all began, to a time when fires burned high against the coming dark and the living gathered to honor the dead. Because before it was Halloween, it was Samhain. And the year was ending, and the fields were bare, the harvest gathered and stored. Across the rolling hills of what is now Ireland, Scotland, and part of Wales, the wind carried the scent of dying grass and smoke from distant fires. The Celts called this time Samhain, meaning summer's end. For the Celts, the year was not divided by months or numbered days. It was a wheel, a living cycle of birth, death, and renewal that turned with the brand itself. Samhain stood at one of its most powerful points, a threshold where two worlds meet. The final harvest had been taken in. The livestock that could not survive the winter had been culled. And that's the nicest way of saying they were done away with.
Yeah. And by the way, for anybody who's going Samhain, that's what some of y'all say is Samhain.
Yeah, it's
Not Samhain.
Not Samhain. God damn it.
It's Samhain.
It's Samhain.
Sauron.
I know it
The
looks
more you
weird.
know.
Yeah, the more you know, shooting star. See, you learned something with EVP. We're not just shits and giggles. We're also scientific over here.
Well, we're shits and giggles too.
We're a lot of shits and giggles. That's true.
As long as it's not giggles and shits.
As long as it's not giggles and shits. That is so true.
We don't
Yes.
kink shame Chad Wandell.
That's true. That is true. Thank God for that.
I do. If that is your kink, I am shaming you all fucking.
We're
day.
digressing.
We're gonna get the water hose.
We are. We just got out of the introduction. We can't go off the rails this
All right.
early.
Tell me about candy corn. Here we go.
Yeah, candy. That's a never
Speaking
mind.
about giggling shit. Ugh.
Well, what remained was stored and counted grain, roots, salt, and meat, all that would stand between a family and starvation. The days shortened, the cold deepened, and with that darkness came a sense that the barriers between the seen and the unseen were beginning to thin. It was believed that as the world turned towards its season of death, the dead themselves could walk once more. Not as horror, but as inevitability, as part of the natural rhythm. Ancestors were thought to return home on Samhain night, drawn by the warmth of the hearts and the offerings left in their honor. I see Shelley shitting and giggling over there. Families set extra places at the table, left food by the doorway, or placed candles in windows to guide loved ones through the dark. But not every spirit was welcome. Some were believed to wander, lost or restless, drawn by the open passage between the worlds. And so on that final night of October, the Celts gathered on hilltops and sacred groves to light enormous bonfires, flames so large they could be seen for miles. The fires honored the gods, purified the land, and burned as protection against whatever might slip through the veil. These gatherings were not merely celebrations. They were acts of survival, of remembrance, of reverence for the unseen. For the Celts, life and death were part of one unbroken cycle, and Samhain was the moment when both met face to face. And as the smoke from those hilltop fires curled toward the night sky, it was said that the worlds of mortal and spirit intertwined in that moment. This was not a night of fear, not yet. It was a night of acknowledgement, a night of endings, yes, but also of beginnings. Samhain was the turning of the will and the heartbeat between what had been and what would come next. Now, to understand Samhain, you have to understand how the Celts saw the world itself. They did not divide existence into the sacred and the ordinary, the natural and the supernatural, and the living and the dead. To them, these realms overlapped constantly. The visible world was only one layer of reality, and beneath it, or perhaps within it, existed other planes filled with gods, ancestors, and unseen forces that shaped human fate. This worldview was cyclical. Life did not move in a straight line from birth to death, but in a series of continual transformations. The same way fields bloomed, withered, and bloomed again, so too did the spirit. Death was not an ending, but a passage, a necessary turning of the wheel. And it's within this understanding that Samhain found its meaning. The festival was not born out of fear of the dead, but out of the reverence for the continuity of existence.
So, I'm sorry. So
Go
real
ahead.
quick, basically, Samhain is kind of like the rebirth for the new cycle. It's basically the resetting of the clock.
Pretty much, yeah. So it's the time of the year, basically, whenever it's like they saw the world as one's life. So when a person dies, they transform to the other, go to the other side. They make the next passage in, and so too is the world at this time, because you're going from the fall into the winter months.
Okay.
So everything is basically dying. So they're seeing it as the turning of the wheel.
So like on our calendar, like New Year's Eve, that's the last day of the year, and then we reset everything for the coming year.
Mm-hmm.
For the Celtic world, it was Samhain.
Yes, if you want to put it that way, yes. This would be like almost like the Great Reset, because it's going to be right before spring, right before the big bloom, right before everything comes back. So if you want to look at it that way, it would be considered kind of like a great dying of the world to reset everything that they had done throughout the year.
In the farming world, we use the same time period as a trigger to know when to harvest, but it's also kind of like the preparation for when nothing can grow because it's too cold. But and again, like we didn't know when the new year used to be, so this was you better have your food by here or you're screwed.
Okay.
All
right.
Yeah. Well, when the harvest ended and the earth grew still, it wasn't only the crops that entered their rest. The entire natural world seemed to pause. Animals retreated, the soil cooled, and the light withdrew. This rhythm mirrored the human journey, too. And that was the reminder that all life, too, would one day cross into stillness before returning anew. Because we're still on their beliefs of building why they did all of this.
So is it like a soul hibernation until the spring?
Oh, that's a good way of putting it. Ooh, how do I answer that?
There's a lot of
You're
animals going to
welcome.
hibernation at this point.
Thanks, Shelley, for asking the academic fucking questions on this podcast.
I'm practicing.
I don't know if I would necessarily call it like a soul hibernation, like with their
But
death
it's waiting
cycle,
to be
so speak.
reborn, right? We're acknowledging the passing of life and the death. And
I guess you could look at it
everything
as like a
was
soul
reborn.
hibernation, because this is when they held the remembrance of the dead, when it was said that the dead was to walk again among the living. Even though that their beliefs were very much parallel to one another, that things existed within other realms at all times, I guess you could say. This would be like the one night that they believed that the living, I guess, would kind of return or walk amongst them, so to speak. So yeah, that's actually not a bad way of looking at it.
Before going back into the quiet.
Yeah.
So kind of like a celebration, and then your soul goes into hibernation until
Look at you giving
it's
different
reborn.
perspectives.
I always give a different perspective. You just don't always care to listen.
I do listen to you. Shut up.
I've heard that before.
Right? Jed's like, I'm married. That sounds familiar.
Did I just get scolded secondhand?
Right. Yeah. Well, what we might call the supernatural, quote unquote, was simply part of the natural cycle for them. Spirits of the dead were not imagined as these grotesque apparitions or monsters. They were the ancestors. They were neighbors. They were kin. Their presence was expected and very much welcomed at certain times of the year, especially when the seasons shifted. Samhain represented the ultimate threshold of that rhythm. The moment when the vitality of summer yielded to the dormancy of winter, and the boundaries between mortal world and the other world grew thin enough for those connections to be felt again. So that kind of goes into what you were asking about kind of the hibernation of stuff, that there are different parts of the year
Thank you.
that the spirits return as well. Now, I'm going to probably butcher these next few names, so bear with me. The Celts referred to this other world by many names. Annwn in Welsh tradition, or Tir Nanog in Irish myth, but its nature was consistent. It was not a realm of punishment or reward, but of eternal youth, beauty, and abundance. It was the mirror of the living world, not its opposite. In that sense, when the veil lifted on Samhain, the dead were not returning for some dreadful underworld, which is what a lot of people think. They were crossing from one side of existence to another, from reflection back into form. And early Celtic mythology is filled with tales of mortals crossing into this other world through mists, lakes, or burial mounds even. And while those accounts were recorded centuries after the ancient Celts had vanished, they persevered preserve, an older understanding that the spiritual and physical worlds are not divided by distance, but by perception. And then that on certain nights that perception could shift. Okay. So, and this belief system is what made Samhain inevitable. A society so deeply attuned to the cycles of nature, to the thinness between life and death, would naturally mark the year's darkening with ritual. The bonfires and offerings were not superstitions born of fear. They were the acts of balance, to give back to the land after taking from it, to acknowledge the spirits who walked unseen beside them, and to keep harmony between the living and the departed, the harvest and the hunger, and the light and the long dark ahead. Even the Celts' gods reflected this rhythm. Many of their deities were dual in nature, both nurturing and destructive, embodying the life cycle rather than standing apart from it. Morrigan, often called the goddess of fate or battle, was also tied to, for instance, fertility and sovereignty. Butchering a name again, Dagda, the good god, was both creator and destroyer, wielding a club that could kill with one end and restore life with the other. The divine was not... Look, Shelly. Shelly's like, that's my motherfucking weapon.
Let me beat you, then give you new life. Hey.
Isn't that what you say to every client that comes over? Let me beat you and give you new life, Shelly?
Only if they ask nicely.
Only if they pay enough.
Hey, $20 is $20.
$20 is $20. There's a reason why we call her Satan's mistress.
Yeah, I ain't looking to get married. No.
Well, the divine was not moralized as good or evil. It was the full circle of existence itself. And through this lens, the Samhain was a sacred pivot point in the universe, not just a festival marking time, but a ritual of cosmic maintenance. Communities participated to keep that circle turning, ensuring that the dead were remembered and that the land was honored and life would return when the sun warmed the fields again. Much of what we know now about these beliefs comes from fragmented sources. Roman commenters, Julius Caesar, all of these who were outsiders who wrote from that perspective, and also Christian monks who recorded myths centuries later. Their biases shaped what survived, often coloring Celtic spirituality with tones of mysticism and savagery. But when you strip away those layers, what emerges is a worldview both sophisticated and deeply human. Samhain wasn't about terror or appeasement. It was about participation in the endless rhythm of existence, and a night to acknowledge the unseen forces that governed life and to reaffirm humanity's place within that greater balance. I've got a clacking chat. I'm going to mute you. So belief gave shape to Samhain, but ritual gave it life. To the Celts, fate was not something spoken. Now I'm laughing at Chad trying to figure out what the fucking clacking is. It's something in your headset, my friend. I'll just work around it. But to the Celts, fate was not something spoken. It was something done. The turning of the year was too powerful a moment to face passively. It demanded participation. As the sun slipped lower in the sky, communities gathered on these high places of the land, open ridges, sacred groves, and stone circles that had watched over generations. And here, under the darkening sky, they prepared those lights to light the fires of Samhain. Again, these were not small, comforting hearth fires of home. They were massive. I want y'all to picture. I saw some pictures of these, just depictions. They were massive blazes.
A&M bonfire.
Yeah, A&M bonfire, my friend. Think of it that way.
So this whole imagery, if I'm understanding correctly, the whole give back to the land. Now, a lot of people who are farmers, my dad's farmer, he will burn whatever's left in his hay fields and then plow it under before the winter comes as a way to insulate and refeed the soil so you can grow it again. But there is a burning that occurs. So my question becomes, that's part of the ritual because it's meant to feed the spirits or feed the land?
Well, in some cultures,
it's a mixture of both. Yeah, it's a mixture of both in this sense. Like it's to honor obviously the dead and to light the fires is said to give guidance to those that are coming to walk. I'm about to go a little bit more in. Let me explain just a little bit more, maybe a little bit more.
I'm not trying to jump. I just had a question.
No. Yeah, it's okay. Maybe I'll make a little bit more sense where it comes with the ancestors versus the land here in just a second.
Okay.
So these massive blazes were built carefully from chosen wood, fed by the last of the season's straw and bracken. Some accounts describe them being lit by druids, others by the eldest members of a clan. Now, the flame itself was considered sacred, a gift that purified and protected. And when the fires reached their peak, herds were driven between them, smoke curling around their flanks, not into them, people, between them. And this was an act of blessing, a way to guard the animals that would sustain families throughout the winter. Once the herds were safe, the people turned to their own protection. Each household extinguished its hearth, plunging the home into darkness. Then, one by one, torches were carried from the great communal blaze to rekindle those home fires. And that was the symbolic rebirth, the death of the old year and the lighting of the new. And these rituals, we see the heart of the Celtic relationship with nature. Fire represented both destruction and renewal, an acceptance that life and death were inseparable. By sharing one flame, the people reaffirmed their bond not only to one another, but to the forces that governed their world. As the night deepened, attention turned to the unseen. The Celts believed the dead did not vanish into nothingness. They lingered near their homes, near the places they had loved, and near those who remembered them. And on Samhain night, when that veil between worlds was thin, they might return. So families honored this with offerings. Plates of food were set aside, drinks poured, small portions of the harvest left on threshold or near hearths. Some set an empty chair by the fire, which was a silent invitation for ancestors to rest a while, and others left candles in windows to guide friendly spirits home. And these gestures weren't acts of fear, but of respect, a recognition of continuity. Again, the dead were part of the community still, unseen but never forgotten. Their presence brought comfort, not dread. But not all spirits were kin. The Celts also believed in the Eschi, which were the people of the mounds. Now, the Eschi were thought to dwell beneath the hills in ancient burial sites known as the Shida, entrances to the other world itself. They were powerful beings, not gods exactly, but not mortal either. The Celts approached them with cautious reverence. Offerings were left near mounds and standing stones to maintain peace with these inhabitants of the unseen world. And the line between ancestor and spirit, between the human and the divine, was never firmly drawn. And as the fires burned low and the air grew colder, the night turned to introspection. Samhain was not only a time for remembrance, but it was also a time for revelation. With the boundaries between worlds weakened, it was believed that glimpses of the future could be caught in the flicker of a flame or the pattern of a dream. Though these customs sound playful now in their earliest form, they were expressions of a serious idea, that the same energy allowing the dead to cross the threshold could also open the door to time itself. The future, like the spirit world, was simply another realm to glimpse for those who knew when to look. There were also hints in scattered chronicles. There were also hints of more solemn offerings, what outsiders later called, quote unquote, sacrifices. Roman writers, and along with Julius Caesar, we love him and how he rewrote history, claimed the Celts performed human sacrifices, describing great wicker figures filled with victims and set ablaze. But these accounts came from conquerors, written through the lens of propaganda meant to paint the Celts as savage and in need of, quote, civilization. Archaeological evidence tells a very quieter story. While animal bones and symbolic deposits have been found at ancient sites, there is little to suggest widespread human sacrifice. More likely, the Celts offered what mattered most to them, the fruits of their labor, prized animals, or finely crafted goods. Sacrifice in this sense was not about cruelty, but about reciprocity, giving something valuable back to the earth and the spirits in gratitude for survival. And as the fires died and the first frost crept across the grass, the people would return to their homes carrying that new flame. And the night of Samhain closed with the reassurance that balance had been restored between light and dark, the living and the dead, and the seen and the unseen. Each act, from driving herds through smoke to leaving food by the door, had meaning woven through it. These were not random superstitions, but a language of gestures spoken through ritual. And together they formed a dialogue between humanity and the forces that shaped its world. And it was a dialogue so deeply ingrained that it could not be silenced. Even when new faith arrived, when new calendars replaced the old, these customs persisted, flickering quietly in hearts and hillsides, waiting to be called by these new names. So to answer you a little bit, because now that I've kind of gotten through that, to answer your question a little bit more, Shelley, on it, is that yes, these fires were about all of that, but in the burning of it, it is kind of, as you were talking about with your dad, that he would kind of till it underneath to give back to the land that gave to him. that's the way that they're seeing it in this sense as well, because they're using special chosen wood that help to kind of sustain them throughout the years. So in this burning ritual, they're essentially giving back because it was given to them by doing this very fire is a very what am I trying to say? Jesus, my brain just went.
That's okay. I know what you mean.
Fire is important.
Well, and you know, there are a lot of controlled burns that go on, especially in forest areas and stuff like that, because you have to clear out the underbrush in order for those trees or whatever that are surviving to be able to get enough food, enough light, enough, water. So yeah, the ceremonial burning, that's very interesting, but that's a beautiful image where they all extinguish the fires in their home and go and light their torches from a single centering fire. We all know how hard it is to restart a fire once you put it out. So that was a chore. Yeah. So, okay. All right. I'm with you now. I'm with you. And I hate the way that they say sacrificing the animals. It really should be that they are gifts, because a lot of people go sacrificing. They go, oh, it's a cult. No. These were gifts. Like, I would give you a gift, but I'm not going to give you a bloody animal because that isn't appropriate. But it was appropriate for their belief system. So
it was appropriate for their belief system, and the term sacrifice carries a negative connotation with it.
That's correct.
At the end of the day, it is basically they're giving a gift back to the gods, to the land, to this belief system that cared for them and protected them throughout the entire year. So, I mean, it's the reason why I put sacrifice in here is because it was typically like it was the word they used, number one, but it's a prized animal usually that was used most of the time. So that would be something you would sacrifice, not in a sense of I'm going to go slit its throat open and drain its blood, but you're giving it up because it is such a prized
giving up
possession.
Something dear to you.
Yeah, so you are sacrificing.
It's not necessarily the animals to sacrifice, it's your sacrifice.
It's your sacrifice. That's the difference. It's not the
Chad,
sacrificing of the animal.
Oh, well, I was going to say there's actually hundreds and hundreds of varieties of plants that will not grow without fire. And there's a lots of, like the sequoias of California.
Right.
They will not germinate and release seeds without being burnt.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
There's a number of pine trees that will not release their seeds unless they actually get burnt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You're so smart, Chad Wandale.
Well, when Christianity arrived in the British Isles, it did not find a people lost in superstition. It found a culture already steeped in ritual, one that understood the sacredness of time, the rhythm of life and death, and the thin spaces between the two. The Celts did not need to be told that the unseen world existed. They lived in constant relationship with it. And for the church, this posed both a challenge and an opportunity. Conversion in the early medieval world was rarely a clean break. It was a process, slow, uneven, and filled with compromise. Missionaries traveling through Ireland and Britain discovered that faith here was woven into the land itself. Holy places were not only churches and altars, but rivers, hills, and standing stones. Festivals were not arbitrary dates on a calendar, but reflection of the earth's turning and the sky's change. To simply outlaw such beliefs would have been futile. These observances were not separate from daily life. They were daily life. And so the church took a different approach. It began to align its holy days with the rhythms that people already knew. The seasons of sowing, reaping, and resting were reinterpreted through Christian eyes. Ancient festivals were reframed, their meanings rewritten, but their timing left intact. It was less erasure and more translation, a merging of two worlds that would create something entirely new. The old fires of Samhain still burned, but now they would be reflected in candlelight on church altars. The night that once belonged to ancestors and spirits would soon be given to saints and souls. And through that transformation, a new tradition would begin to take shape, one that carried the memory of both worlds. As Christianity spread through Europe, the church faced an ancient challenge: how to sanctify a world that had long been sacred in other ways. The early missionaries understood that belief could not be simply replaced, but it had to be absorbed. And so the church began a quiet but deliberate campaign of transformation. And in the year 601, Pope Gregory I sent a letter to one of his missionaries, Augustine of Canterbury, with clear instructions. When converting the pagans of Britain, Gregory wrote, "Do not destroy their temples. Cleanse them. Sprinkle them with holy water, build altars, and let the people continue to gather there. Instead of sacrificing animals to their gods, have them offer the same animals as food in celebration of the Christian God. In other words, do not uproot what is familiar, redirect it." And this became the church's most effective strategy, a form of spiritual adaptation. Festivals marking the harvest, the solstice, or the coming of winter were not forbidden. They were just reinterpreted. Sacred groves became churchyards. Feasts, once offered to the old gods, were dedicated to saints. Every act of reverence was given new language, but the gestures themselves remained. In the British Isles, conversion happened slowly and unevenly. Monastic missionaries traveled on foot from settlement to settlement, carrying both the gospel and a deep respect for local custom. Christianity here was not imposed by empire, but woven into the existing fabric of belief. A blessing once spoken to the land spirits might in time be addressed to St. Bridget. Candles once lit for ancestors were placed before crucifixes. The motions of faith never changed, only the names invoked. And it's within this process that the festival of Samhain found its echo in the Christian year. In the early centuries of the faith, the day had already existed to honor the martyrs, All Saints' Day. And Pope Boniface IV had established it in the early 7th century, originally on May 13th. But several generations later, under Pope Gregory III, that date was moved to November 1st. The reason was never written outright, but the symbolism was clear. A day to honor the dead now fell directly upon the time when the old world had always honored its own departed. By placing All Saints' Day at the turning of the dark season, the church achieved what missionaries had long been instructed to do: replace without resistance. The fires of Samhain now burned in the memory of the saints, their prayers offered in place of ancient invocations. But this realignment was more than a tactical shift. It reshaped the spiritual calendar itself. The Feast of All Saints honored the holy dead, those already in heaven, while the next day, November 2nd, would soon come to honor all souls still awaiting redemption. And the framework of the Celtic year had been subtly rewritten, its rituals now folded into Christian liturgy. And yet, even within these changes, the essence of the old world endured. Bonfires of Samhain that had once guarded villages from the darkness now flickered inside stone churches instead, transformed into rows of candles for the holy dead. The flame never went out. They just redirected it. The meaning of the season remained the same: remembrance, protection, and the acknowledgement of death's presence in this life cycle. Only the language of devotion had shifted, and with it the beginning of something new. A blending of old faith and new that would one day give rise to All Hallows Eve.
So very slowly and deliberately, they hijacked the native, whatever the natives were, the Celtics or
Yep.
whatever the native belief system was. They very slowly over time hijacked it and converted it into a form of Christianity.
Basically, from about
Wow.
the 7th century to the 10th century was how long it took, basically, to make that
A very
slow.
methodical indoctrination of new beliefs.
That's free definition of in it for the long game. Yeah, that basically they hijacked it and just slowly started to kind of redirect a bunch of the purposes that were Celtic at the beginning. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. By the 10th century, the church's reimagining of the season reached its completion. In addition to All Saints' Day on November 1st, a second observance was added, All Souls' Day on November 2nd. It was established by the Benedictine monks of Cluny, led by Abbot Odilo, who decreed that every monastery under his order should dedicate this day to praying for the souls of all the departed, not just the canonized saints, but the ordinary dead as well. The church now offered an unbroken sequence: one day for the holy, one day for the humble, and one for everyone caught in between. And this expansion marked a profound shift. Christianity, which had drawn a clear line between the living and the dead, began to adopt a more nuanced view, one that echoed older understandings. Through prayer, the living could aid the souls in purgatory. Through remembrance, they maintained connection with those who had passed. The calendar might have changed, but the rhythm was very familiar. The people still lit the candles, still left food, and still believed the dead walked close. In the small villages and farmlands of Ireland, Scotland, and England, the church's holy days became interwoven with the local customs. The ceremony of the ritual mingled with the intimacy of folklore. Bells were rung to comfort the souls of the dead. Candles were placed in windows to guide them home. Families prepared special loaves or cakes called soul cakes, baked with sweet spices and raisins, each one offered in exchange for a prayer. Those unable to bake would still take part. The poor and the young went door to door, offering to pray for departed souls in return for food or alms. They were known as soulers, Soulers, and their verses still survive in fragments from the late Middle Ages. A soul, a soul, a soul cake. Pray, good Christian, for a soul to awake. The practice spread across Europe, from England to Germany to Ireland, from Ireland to Italy, each region giving it slightly different form, but the purpose remained the same: to remember, to give, and to ask for a blessing in return. In some regions, the soulers began to disguise themselves as they traveled, a custom historians trace to the Scottish and Irish practice of guising. The disguise was a remnant of much older logic, to protect oneself from wandering spirits by blending in among them. Children wore masks, recited verses, and performed small tricks or songs for their offerings. And over time, these customs became communal rather than religious. The prayers faded, replaced by laughter and performance. The exchange, gift for gesture, food for rhyme, remained intact. And 1,000 years later, it would resurface in a brand new form, in a new century, and under a new name, called trick or treat. But in the Middle Ages, such customs were more than entertainment. They carried the same purpose Samhain once held, to maintain balance between the living and the dead. The church had changed the prayers and the calendars, but not the impulse itself. Academic historians point out that this continuity was not coincidence, it was cultural necessity. The memory of the old year's end of ancestral visitations was too deeply woven into the European imagination to just disappear. So Christianity gave it structure, but it could not erase its roots. By the late medieval period, All Hallows Eve, the evening before the twin feast of saints and souls, had become a time of mingled devotion and mischief. Fires still burned on hilltops, though now in honor of the faithful departed. Bells still tolled for the dead, but masks and processions filled the streets as well. The sacred and the playful had found a way to coexist. The night once known as Samhain had not vanished. It had just merely learned a new language: prayer, disguise, and community. And beneath the Latin hymns and flickering candlelight, the same ancient truth remained, that once a year, humanity still turned its face toward the darkness, remembering that life and death walk the same road. I thought that was cool. I'm not going to lie. I did not know the history of trick-or-treat. I didn't know where it came from. I did learn that. I knew quite a bit.
Yeah, so whenever you tell those little beggars to get off your front porch, you're actually being accurate.
Yeah. So just open the door and be like, I don't have any soul cakes. Go away. All out of soul cakes.
Do a dance. You're supposed to perform before I give you something.
Yeah, exactly. You're supposed to
clean
perform.
my oven.
No, Chad, we don't do that.
Oh, sorry.
No, you don't invite the children in.
No,
That's
Chad, no inviting the children in. That walks the line of kidnapping. We don't do that. We don't condone it.
That's why you build a haunted house and let them walk through it.
There you go. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, by the late Middle Ages, All Hallows Eve had become a night of mingled devotion and delight. Church bell rings for the souls in purgatory while laughter drifted through the streets. Candles flickered in windows, guiding spirits home or perhaps warning them away. Children in disguise roamed from door to door, their songs and rhymes echoing prayers long forgotten. The sacred and the playful had definitely learned to live side by side by the Middle Ages. And as centuries passed, those quiet rituals began to evolve even more. Europe was changing. Its villages growing, its faiths diverging, its stories reshaping themselves with every generation. The church's calendar still dictated the rhythm of the year, but folk tradition filled the spaces in between. Old beliefs found new disguises. Customs once meant to honor saints and souls turned toward community celebration and storytelling. The fires that once burned on hilltops now crackled in village squares instead. Feasts became festivals. Candles became lanterns. Yet through every change, the same pulse endured. That instinct to face that darkening time of the year with laughter and remembrance. And from these lingering echoes, the Halloween we recognize today began to take form. It would travel through centuries across continents and through countless retellings. Its symbols, the lantern, the mask, the offering, would adapt to new lands and new meanings. And as it crossed the ocean with the people who carried it, each piece of the old world would find new soil to grow in. Because while religion shaped the calendar, it was folklore that kept the fire alive. Of all the symbols tied to Halloween, none burns brighter or older than the lantern. Its light has changed shape through the centuries, but its meaning remains: protection, remembrance, and the defiance of darkness. And long before it became a decoration carved from pumpkins, the lantern began as a warning and a legend. In Ireland, it was said there once lived a man known as Stingy Jack.
I know this story.
And according to the old tale, Jack was a drunkard and a trickster, clever enough to cheat even the devil himself. One night, when the devil came to claim his soul, Jack offered him a drink. True to his name, he didn't want to pay for it, so he convinced the devil to turn into a coin to settle the bill. The devil obliged, but Jack quickly slipped the coin into his pocket beside a small silver cross, trapping him. Eventually, Jack freed the devil, but only after making him promise never to take his soul. Years later, when Jack finally died, he was turned away from both heaven and hell, too sinful for one and barred from the other by his own bargain. That's Shelley's problem.
I know, I can't go either way. I'm going to be stuck. I'm going to haunt you fuckers forever.
Well, the devil, amused but spiteful, tossed him an ember from the fires of the underworld to light his way through the eternal night. Jack placed the ember inside a hollowed turnip, and from that night forward, he wandered the earth as Jack of the Lantern. Now, the tale carried moral weight, a warning against greed and deceit, but its roots reach deeper. Folklorists have long noted that Stingy Jack embodies older Celtic themes: the wandering soul, trapped between worlds, the light through the darkness, the punishment that becomes eternal movement. The story reflects a fusion of Christian morality with pre-Christian imagery of the restless dead. In the Irish countryside, people honored this legend on All Hallows Eve by carving grotesque faces into turnips or beets.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Placing candles inside to ward off wandering spirits, or perhaps to imitate Jack himself roaming with his cursed light. The flicker of those hollowed roots echoed something ancient, the fires of Samhain still burning in smaller, humbler form. Yeah, that's pretty. That's a fucked up looking turnip.
Oh God!
It's
Chad's
horrible,
tickled.
is it not?
Chad's tickled.
It's
I know,
Ryan's
Chad's
penis
tickled.
now.
It's yeah.
That's
Sorry,
an
this
actual
is
photograph.
yeah. This is the actual photograph of Ryan's penile injury.
Oh God! Hey guys, something's wrong here.
Jesus Christ.
You know, I used to have hair.
Christ.
I'm sorry.
Oh God!
Oh. Well, when Irish and Scottish immigrants came to North America in the 19th century, they carried these customs with them. I'm just going to carry on. Y'all
I'm
can
just
laugh
gonna
on
be
me
in my-
somewhat. Yeah, that's fine. But here they found a new canvas. Pumpkins, native to the New World, were larger, softer, and easier to carve than the turnips of home. Soon the flicker of candlelight inside orange shells began to appear across porches and windowsills each autumn. The jack-o'-lantern had evolved, not in meaning but in form. It remained a light in the dark, a charm against evil, a symbol of warmth amid the cold. Only its material had changed. By the late 1800s, American newspapers and harvest guides began mentioning, quote, pumpkin lanterns as part of autumn celebrations. They became the centerpiece of Halloween imagery, both guardian and grim, equal parts playful and ominous. The legend of Stingy Jack faded into the background, but the flame remains. That single ember passed from myth to ritual, from turnip to pumpkin. Still burns every October night, echoing a belief that goes back more than 2,000 years. That light, even a small one, can hold the darkness at bay. The jack-o'-lantern represents the light of Halloween. The costume represents its shadow, the act of stepping into another's skin for a single night. It's one of the oldest instincts in human ritual, and Halloween is only its most modern expression. Shelley just cannot keep it together. She's done for.
The visual is stuck in her head. Work it out like Richard Simmons, Shelley. Come on.
God.
Got her.
We'll be here all night if I don't just keep going. The roots of disguise reach back to Samhain itself. When the Celts believed the dead walked among the living, they also believed that not all spirits were kind. Some could bring illness, misfortune, or bad luck to those they encountered. To protect themselves, people cloaked their faces in ashes or hides, blending in with the spirits who roamed the night. To be mistaken for one of them was to remain unseen, safe until dawn. Centuries later, that instinct still lingered. In medieval Britain and Scotland, villagers took to the streets on All Hallows Eve, dressing in rags, veils, or animal masks. I did not realize the history of Halloween was going to be so comical to you fuckers.
No, I'm telling you, some of these old pictures of Halloween costumes are fucking terrifying.
I
Like,
know.
I'm quite
so
terrified by the
innocent.
pointy-hatted one.
It's like, we think some of our costumes and ideology today are scary, but like when you look at some of these costumes they put on and made from scratch, they're terrifying imagery. Like, I don't know why they're so scary, even though they're so innocent. It's scary.
No, they're frightening. Like, don't get me wrong. If I saw those chasing me down the street, I'd freak the fuck out.
Or hit it with a bat.
Yeah, or hit it with a bat. Exactly. Well, this is when on a Hallows Eve, the kids would dress in rags, veils, or animal masks. And it was the term that it carried the same term as we previously discussed called disguising, to form the word disguise. Participants again went house to house to play performing songs, rhymes, or small plays in exchange for the food or coins. And by the 16th century, these traditions had merged with other seasonal customs, known as mumming, wassailing, and winter pageantry, blurring the lines between theater, ritual, and mischief. And the disguises became more elaborate: painted masks, false faces carved from wood or leather, animal horns, and costumes that turned the wearer into something both human and not. These celebrations were often loud, irreverent, unpredictable. Church officials tried at times to curb them, claiming they mocked that they mocked the ceremony of the holy days, but the people kept them alive. The act of masking had grown far beyond fear. Or words are hard tonight.
You can get through it. I have faith in you.
The act of masking had grown beyond fear or reverence. It had become a language of freedom. For one night each year, a servant could play a lord, a woman could play a man, and the rules of identity could be broken safely under the cover of costume. By the 18th and 19th centuries, costumed gatherings had become fixtures of autumn festivities across the British Isles. In Scotland and Ireland, geysers still traveled in disguise, but masquerade balls began to appear in cities, elegant affairs that borrowed the theatrical spirit of earlier folk processions. When Irish and Scottish immigrants brought these customs to North America, they evolved again. In the early decades of the 1900s, Halloween celebrations were largely community events. Parades, harvest parties, and neighborhood gatherings where children often dressed as ghosts, devils, or figures from popular literature. Homemade costumes were simple: bed sheets, paper masks, or old clothing transformed with imagination and candlelight, aka the picture I just showed you, which I'm not going to put up again because Shelley will lose it again. As the century progressed, Halloween's masquerade became more commercialized, but its essence remained the same. To put on a costume was to cross a boundary, to blur the line between the self and the other, between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Even now, that ritual carries echoes of its beginnings. Behind every painted face or plastic mask is an ancient idea that to step into another identity is to momentarily enter a different world. Whether it was to hide from spirits or become one, the costume has always been a small act of transformation, a reminder that on Halloween night, we all walk a little closer to the edge of the unknown. Excuse me.
And I am all about a good costume, child. And this is interesting. If you want to throw this back into the paranormal, a lot of times we will try to be human trigger objects, which involves dressing in a costume of the time. So this is very interesting to me that you can actually use that today. Doesn't have to be Halloween, because God knows I don't wait for Halloween. You can go and be a human trigger object anywhere whenever you're investigating, and you're stepping out of you and becoming part of that environment which you seek to elicit a response from. Which yeah.
That's interesting, Shelley, because every time I've seen you guys do that, you get some crazy evidence. And I wonder if it's because they confuse you as being one of them. And so maybe the rules of can't talk to the living, they go, yeah, do you get this, asshole? Oh, wait, shit.
They're one of us. Yeah. One of us, right?
Yeah.
And I love to do that. I love to put myself in the, there was a room in a place that we had gone one time that was padded to look as if it was a padded room in an insane asylum. And that person happened to have straitjackets. Well, I put one on. And I will tell you, I sat in that room, and that room got very wild for me. It got very unpredictable. It got very almost, it felt as confining as I was confined. And the rest of the night, I had great activity because it was kind of like, hey, this is an escape, you know? So, yeah, I think that's a very good idea for paranormal investigators to figure
Yeah.
out some of the history of the location and perhaps try to be a human trigger object. Even for 15 minutes, it gets you some interesting results.
I'm game.
Yeah.
Yay.
Well, by the oh gosh, I just lost my place. Sorry. With the costumes and the guising, the came the trick or treating, and the earliest written record of the phrase trick or treat appears in Canada in 1927 in a small newspaper from Alberta. It described masked children visiting homes, demanding sweets, and warning of playful mischief if denied. Within a few decades, the phrase had spread across the United States, appearing in magazines, postcards, and popular radio shows. The mid-20th century gave trick-or-treating its modern form. Suburban neighborhoods, with their rows of houses and streetlights, provided the perfect landscape for it. Candy companies and civic organizations encouraged the custom as a safer alternative to pranks and vandalism. Newspapers promoted it as a wholesome community tradition, a way to unify neighbors and give children a night of fun. And I'm going to tell you right now, if I was able to celebrate Halloween this year, which I'm not, if you are 99 years old and you come to my doorstep like dressed up and you say trick or treat, you're getting a full-size fucking Snickers bar, okay?
That's right.
We have a rule in our neighborhood because we live between two schools.
Yeah.
One of them is an elementary, one of them is a junior high, and then the high school is literally behind us. We don't care. Let children be children as long as possible.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And I don't. And we always set up, the stuff for the kids, but then we have an adult batch that we always have where we give out Jello shots to the adults. So.
What a good idea!
Yeah.
I did that one year a guy I used to date. We would do that in his neighborhood, and we basically had little airline bottles of different varieties. And any parent that came with their child in a costume that was not the driver, we would give them a bag with their own trick or treat in it, and be like, "Here you go. You're in costume. You're supporting your kid. That's for later for you." But yeah, if you're participating, it's about having fun. That sense of community is really it's something that I don't see it as anything evil. It's a sense of community to bring everybody together to be like, hey, let's have fun, let's enjoy the night, let's enjoy the fellowship, and get the kids all hopped up on sugar so when they go to bed they're tired and they go right out.
Exactly.
Then mom and dad can have whatever was in the trick-or-treat bag that Shelley handed out.
Exactly.
And here's the thing, so many people these days, they go to these towns, they go to the small town life because they want the sense of community. But then, like in my own town, we get people that every city council. I used to be on city council, and I was the mayor for just a brief little window because I'm Mayor
Wandell.
So, like, people always, talk about how they want the sense of community, but then you don't know your damn neighbor. This is the perfect excuse to go out and talk to people and be a part of community. And when I see people put it down, it frustrates me to no end because there's no other time period or holiday that literally beckons you to come to the streets and be a community.
It forces you to, like you said, be out of your house for this one.
Yeah.
And it's a great time to check on the neighbor you never see too, like how's 88-year-old Mrs. Kinsley? Like, she's still here with us? Do we, it's time to
that
check
could be a
on
whole
your
different
neighbor.
Halloween horror story. Yeah.
We've had it happen here.
What happened to the cat? Where are the cats?
Two houses down.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
hadn't seen the guy in a while, and we went and checked on him.
Well, even after the old reasons faded, the instinct endured. People still sought light as the year turned toward its darkest hours. Candles burned in church windows, lanterns flickered in the streets, and in time, porch lights began to glow for a new reason: to welcome small figures in masks and costumes as they moved through the night. Now, few think of it this way, but that single bulb by the front door is the modern descendant of those ancient fires, a signal of safety, hospitality, and participation in a ritual as old as winter itself. Each light that cuts through the October dark carries the same message: you are welcome here, and you are seen. From sacred flame to candle, from lantern to electric glow, the light of Halloween has never truly gone out. It has simply adapted, burning now in smaller, gentler ways, still guarding the threshold between darkness and home. And while Halloween is now known for costumes and candy, there was a time when its greatest thrill came not from fright, but from foresight. For centuries, October's final night was believed to hold special power, a moment when the veil that blurred the living and the dead also blurred the boundary between the present and the future. This idea of divination was not new. The Celts had long associated Samhain with prophecy, the belief that as the natural world entered its season of stillness, time itself became more fluid. What began as a sacred ritual eventually slipped into superstition and later into the lighthearted games of autumn gatherings. But the root impulse remained unchanged, to glimpse what lay ahead. Across Ireland, Scotland, and parts of England, folk traditions turned the night into a playful kind of fortune-telling. Apples and nuts, the fruits of harvest, became tools of destiny. Young people dropped apple peels over their shoulders, hoping the shape that formed on the floor would reveal the initial of a future spouse. In other places, two nuts were thrown into the hearth together, each one named for a courting couple. I'm going to, because I said the word nuts, I'm just going to speed through this because y'all are fucking 5-year-olds.
But you said it because they're being thrown in the fire.
Damn, why do I do this podcast with y'all? Anyways, in other places, I'm not even going to repeat that sentence. If they burned quietly side by side, it foretold harmony. If they popped apart, a quarrel of heartbreak was said to come. Jesus Christ.
I think you're doing it on purpose now.
No, I'm not. I'm literally writing what I wrote, and y'all are taking it as 12-year-olds. About nuts popping in a fire.
I'm just going to leave myself muted.
Jesus Christ. Why? Why do I try to teach all history of Halloween? I can't take anything seriously these days. You fucking 12-year-olds. God. Apples were especially tied to these customs. In one version, a girl would attempt to peel an apple in a single strip. If she succeeded, she tossed the peel over her shoulder, and that letter, in the letter it formed, would be her future husband's name. And in another one, young men and women would bob for apples in a tub of water, each fruit marked with a name. The one caught by mouth was said to reveal a destined match. These were games of laughter and competition, but also of quiet hope. Other customs drew on mirrors, dreams, and candlelight. Standing before a mirror at midnight, one might hope to see the face of a future lover reflected behind them. Bread, baked with symbolic tokens, could foretell wealth, travel, or love, depending on what piece a person found. In rural Scotland, young women were said to eat a salted herring before going to bed. Oh my God, I'm literally like, a salted herring? That got her? Seriously? Jesus. Before bed on Halloween night, a charm to ensure that their future husband would appear to them in a dream offering water. By the Victorian era, when Halloween became a popular social holiday in the British Isles and North America, these forms of divination had softened into entertainment. Magazines and household guides of the late 1800s describe apple bobbing, and I'm not even mentioning that next part, as wholesome amusements for parties, to be played under dim light and much laughter. The spiritual seriousness had faded, but the ritual themselves survived. Echoes of the
Much
same longing for a
laughter.
connection, for meaning, for certainty in an uncertain world. Even now, some of those games remain, Shelley.
With much laughter.
Yes, with much laughter. The
I'm
apples,
following the
mirrors,
tradition. You leave me alone.
The apples, the mirrors, the candlelight, all familiar pieces of the season. Their origins, though largely forgotten, reach back to the very heart of Samhain, when people believed the universe itself listened more closely. Halloween has always been a night of asking questions, of seeking what hides in shadow, what waits beyond the moment, what might come next. Whether read in flame, reflected in glass, or whispered in laughter over a cup of apples, the answers have never truly mattered. What mattered was the act of asking. When Halloween crossed the Atlantic, it didn't arrive as a single holiday. It came as fragments, songs, customs, and half-remembered rituals carried by immigrants from Ireland and Scotland. Each piece found new soil in the New World, reshaping itself to fit a different landscape, a different pace of life, and a different kind of darkness. And by the early 19th century, autumn in America was already rich with celebration. There were harvest festivals, barn dances, and community gatherings marking the turning of the season. Into this mix, Halloween slipped quietly, blending at first with existing traditions. It was not yet a national event, just another name for the night when stories were told and fires burned low. But that changed after the Great Famine of the 1840s, when a wave of Irish immigrants brought their customs to North America. The old world practices of guising, souling, and carving lanterns began to take root in the cities and towns of the northeastern United States and parts of Canada. Over time, these local observances grew, shaped by the country's diversity and its appetite for reinvention. By the late 1800s, Halloween began its next transformation, from folk ritual to civic celebration. As America urbanized, communities sought new ways to bring order to the growing night of pranks and mischief that became associated with October's end. City leaders and women's organizations, especially in the Midwest and Northeast, encouraged the structured celebrations, parades, parties, and community games. The focus shifted from superstition to social gathering. Newspapers printed columns on how to host a, quote, proper Halloween party, something Chad would not follow, complete with decorations, games, and refreshments. Schools held autumn fairs, neighborhoods organized masquerades. The evening once meant to honor the dead now became a space for the living to gather, to share food, laughter, and a moment of connection before winter. The 20th century brought another evolution. Candy makers, greeting card companies, and costume manufacturers began to see potential for the holiday. What had once been a night of folklore became a market of imagination. By 1920s, Halloween imagery was appearing everywhere. Pumpkins, black cats, witches, skeletons, standardized through postcards, advertisements, and the growing influence of cinema. Films and radio programs helped define the mood. Playful fright, the thrill of the uncanny made safe through story. The ghosts of Halloween became less the spirits of ancestors and more the characters of fiction. Dracula, Frankenstein, and the haunted house on the hill. And after World War II, with the rise of suburban neighborhoods, Halloween finally found its final form. Rows of the houses lit by porch lights and filled with children created the perfect stage for trick-or-treating. And civic campaigns promoted that as wholesome, because it's Satan's night.
Allegedly.
Yeah, I know. And by the late 20th century, Halloween had become one of the most celebrated holidays in the United States, a blend of old and new, sacred and secular, memory and invention. Yet at its heart, it still carried the same pulse that began in the fires of Samhain, the desire to gather and illuminate the dark and to play with the boundaries between worlds. And as Halloween took this modern shape, something else began to rise with it, a new kind of darkness. Not the unseen spirits that once wandered the Celtic hills, but the imagined horrors of our own making. Fear had always been a part of the season, but once it became safe, once the rituals turned from sacred to social, people began to play with it. The night that had once belonged to the gods and ghosts became a theater for human imagination. Now, in the beginning, fear had been survival. The Celts wore hides and masks to slip past wandering spirits. But as the centuries turned, civilization tamed the dark. We built walls, lit streets, and shut the wilderness out. Death was no longer something we lived beside, but something we pretended to forget. And so fear found another form: story. The stories came first as whispers and warnings, then as art. By the 19th century, a new language of fear emerged in the pages of Gothic literature. Writers like Mary Shelley, Edgar Allan Poe, and Bram Stoker took the unseen forces of folklore and gave them flesh. The monsters they created were not demons from other worlds, but reflections of our own. Frankenstein's creature, born from human ambition; Dracula, the hunger that can never be satisfied; the ghosts, the guilt that never rests. And when film arrived, those shadows grew faces. The 1930s gave us the universal monsters: Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy, the Wolfman, creatures who carried both menace and tragedy. They embodied the same fears that haunted the ancients: death, transformation, the loss of control. And they made the invisible visible, turning old superstitions into modern myths. And by the mid-20th century, Halloween had become their stage. Costumes and masks now mirrored those cinematic faces, blending Hollywood's glamour with folklore's ghosts. The monsters of the screen became the saints of the season. And perhaps that was fitting. For what are monsters if not the same spirits we once feared, now trapped not in the other world, but in our imagination? Fear never vanished, it just simply changed its name. So when we strip away the costumes, the candy, the lights, and the noise, Halloween is still exactly what it's always been about: a night to stand face to face with the dark. We've called it by 100 names at this point. We've written its rituals, softened its edges, and sold it in bright orange colors. But the heartbeat underneath it hasn't changed. It's still the night we acknowledge what we fear, and we do it together. You can dress up as fun, call it fantasy, or laugh it off as play. But at its core, this night remembers. Every lantern, every mask, every knock at the door traces back to the same truth. We have always needed to make peace with death to keep living. That's what this has always been about. Not candy, not costumes, not pranks. It's remembrance, it's defiance, it's survival. So when Halloween night comes, enjoy it, but don't forget what you're a part of. You're continuing something ancient. You're taking part in humanity's oldest ritual, facing the dark, lighting a small flame, and walking forward anyway. That's Halloween. And that's what you're really celebrating. Dun, dun, dun.
I love that.
Well
And
done,
something
Michelle.
else, our modern day monsters, one of the things that that endures about them all
Yeah.
is they are all human.
Mm-hmm.
They are all human.
Yep.
Yep.
Frankenstein
Even the
is human parts. The werewolf transforms, he's a human. Dracula had to be turned, was a human.
Yep.
This struggle between the living and the dead is in all of our current, or even our historic monsters of Halloween.
Yeah.
So I think that's very interesting how it is kind of a hearkening to the ancestors, the people who were alive, who
Yeah.
now have transformed, even if it's in the form of a monster. There's a transformation. I love that. And I did not actually realize all of that. So that's really cool. Thank you. That was awesome.
I love the history of Halloween. It's something that a lot of people look into. They just want to deem it as a horrible holiday to celebrate, whatever the dark forces that are out there, when that's not exactly the case. That's not what it started as. It's to celebrate your ancestors who have gone before. It's to give back and receive gifts of protection for the coming year, and all these sacrifices that you've done throughout the year, you're giving those back to, the gods, God, whatever you want to call it, label it, whatever you label it.
It's a showing of gratitude.
Yeah.
And it has been bastardized to say, oh,
I
it's
was
the
about
devil's
to say
holiday.
that.
Just because of the costumes that you choose. Here's the thing. The costume is actually following, no matter what you choose, it's following the history, and it's following basically the rules, for lack of disguising yourself to walk amongst your ancestors that are here on earth for this night only.
Yeah.
So yeah, the bastardization of it, saying, oh, it's demonic, oh, it's this. No, it's not. Not if you know the history. The history is
Yeah.
about being grateful, being respectful, and showing a general camaraderie, not only for your neighbors, but for your universe, in saying thank you for what I've been giving. It's about being grateful.
I tell you what's really, really interesting, anthropologically speaking, how indigenous cultures of North America, South America, split by 25,000 years here, still have some of the same traditions and customs as the other side of the world, and how those developed completely independent, but almost identically in indigenous tribes. Because they also believe, in that it's a rebirth of the land, that the land is going to sleep so that it can rest and prepare to give back to the culture.
Yeah.
And then even with our ghost traditions, like in the Choctaw world, we have a spirit called, and I'm going to butcher this, like Ishkatini, which is a horned owl. And the horned owl was actually supposed to be a messenger, which, if you think about how the owl is interpreted in European cultures, it's wise, it's a messenger. And so the owl was the messenger between the living and the dead. And so they're told that they can come and deliver those messengers in this time of year. And also, it's a part of Choctaw culture too, that we actually have these spirits that are in this time frame that are all about like trick-or-treating, even in a kind of sense, like and so it's just kind of interesting that split by thousands of years, no contact. So before any of all of that developed, these two different pods of human growth still came to the same outcome. And I think that is mind-blowing that they still developed, in a spiritual sense, that very parallelism there. And that is almost, you would think, impossible.
Yeah, that seems very unlikely, very impossible. But
Yeah,
um,
but yet here we are.
exactly with the development of the same belief system, even though the cultures do not touch.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's fantastic. I always like whenever I see these, not only the blending of the ritual and the history, but whenever it's done correctly and it's respected the way it should be. I know that I don't know if you watched the Expedition X, Expedition Unknown with Josh Gates. He did an entire series over the acknowledgement of the dead, basically. And this was a fascinating series. And forgive me, I don't recall the name off the top of my head, but
Mhm.
he basically went into different cultures and showed how they interacted with their dead,
Hmm.
how they respected their dead, and how they gave tribute to their dead. And it's funny because a lot of those cultural beliefs are actually tied back to what Blake's been telling us about Samhain.
Hmm.
The leaving of food, the decoration, the dressing in costumes or in masks to walk amongst them.
Hmm.
Um, Fascinating how from all over the world in different cultures, there is still some element. There's a through line
Yeah.
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
the belief of Samhain. So yeah,
Yeah.
It's really really interesting, and I've seen what you're talking about, Shelly, and it's crazy because like a lot like we're having an El Dia de Muertos event at Old Park on November 1st, which is the appropriate day for it, and a lot of people don't realize that's not a Spanish holiday, that's not a Mexican tradition,
right.
that's from Aztec, that's an
Yeah.
Aztec tradition, and it got uptook just like other things into a Catholic culture where they kind of adapted it and pushed it out and accepted it. So that's
And
Yeah.
actually an Aztec culture thing.
tell
So
me how you're saying it, Chad, because are you using the Aztec pronunciation?
no, that's the
Because
Spanish. So Dia de los
Di-
Muertos.
Dia de los Muertos. Okay,
Yeah,
got it. I misheard the first time and I thought, oh, is that a different pronunciation? Because I didn't know which one you were using. Okay.
yeah. So
Which
yeah,
we're going to be there for because I'm here for it.
it's going to be fun. And again, that whole tradition again, 25,000 years apart, they still believe to bring the imagery of your dead loved ones because the veil is thin. So they would bring them offerings of their favorite things and they would actually go to where they're buried so that they can feel close to them, or they would leave a trail of marigolds and they would leave a trail of things to lead them back to their home. And
Yeah.
again, the candle, even in these two different cultures, the candles and the fires were lit so that they could find their way through the darkness. And I think that is beautiful.
That
I,
is a beautiful idea.
I
Go ahead,
think
Blake.
my
I'm sorry.
favorite thing that I kind of uncovered, I guess you could say, or didn't even think about. That's why I put in there. For many don't think this way, that the fires of old still burn even today simply by turning on your porch light.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a crazy thing to think about because it's like the simple, because you always wonder, like, why do we turn on our porch light to let the kids know, hey, we've got candy,
Yeah, we
like
have
come knock
candy.
on our door. But it goes all the way back to that. It's like the light, the signaling of like,
But
we're
the other
like,
thing,
you're seeing here, come in.
this is safe. So
Yeah.
like if you
Yep.
if you think about it like that, let's talk about this for a second. Sex offenders can't have their lights on. If they're not allowed to participate. So they have to turn their lights off for Halloween and they have to put up, no knock signs.
Yeah.
So the light signals safety.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what? That light, the light in the darkness has always signaled their safety. Think
It
about
always
lighthouses on the
lighthouses.
capes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
And
always been a signal of safety.
and you know what's interesting is that even today, I mean, I know when I was little, my parents have, it might be like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and they're coming back from somewhere, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna stop by so and so's house." But if we drove by and the porch light was off, they're like, "Oh, they've already gone to bed." My
Mhm.
grandmother used to, the porch light was always on, but when they went to bed, they would turn it off, which was kind of the signal we're no longer receiving visitors.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's like and I guess that still happens. I mean, to be honest, my garage light stays on until we go to bed.
Yeah.
And Blake knows that everybody who comes to my house, we go in through the garage. So if the garage light's off,
Yeah.
don't show up in my house, child. I ain't answering the door if the light's off.
Yeah. I mean, it's such if one of the things that made me fall in love with beyond the concept of Halloween, believe it or not, was the movie Coco. And if you've
Yeah.
never seen
Yeah,
this
it's a
movie,
great movie.
visually, it's unbelievable. But the story and the way that it's melted into their culture, I fell in love with it immediately. And I have always wanted to incorporate that in my own home. You can call it cultural appropriation if you want to. I don't give a shit. I love it so much and I connected to it so much. It's mine now too. Done.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't care.
That's
It was
fine.
so beautiful. So
Yeah.
and I think that's what's supposed to happen, you know. You
Yeah.
find something you connect with, you think that's beautiful, and you celebrate it with them. And we do. And it's
Yeah.
such a beautiful thing to us.
So let me get back to the whole lights and the darkness thing. So some of you that know me know that I do not celebrate Fourth of July, and the reason because my grandmother passed away on that day, and so I don't go anywhere. I don't do anything. I did get to spend it at the old park, which was my nirvana in that moment. Cleaning, which again, that's what I do when I have anxiety, is I clean. So it was a perfect day for me to be there. Um, but the light in the sky, I always step out on Fourth of July and I take notice of the fireworks and I say hello to my grandmother. That light in the sky, that light, that
Yeah.
symbol of something's still there, something's still safe, and something is still with us. That light, that safety, that beacon,
You
and
know,
that that is it has always been a symbol,
mhm.
and I think that that is. I don't know if that originally came from Samhain to look to the sky, look for the light. But I know sailors used it, but I think that that is probably the most beautiful moment you can have is to see
Yeah.
that light in the darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of, believe it or not, this kind of ties the religion aspect all the way back together. It's like one of my favorite, you know, songs to sing when I was in Bible school as a kid was "This Little
This
Light of
little light
Mine."
of mine. That's right.
I'm gonna
Hide
let
it
it
under a
shine.
bushel.
Oh
No.
no, I'm gonna let it shine. And I think regardless of whether you're religious or not, you should live by that. You should be the light in the darkness. And I honestly, when you look at Halloween, it's the perfect metaphor of why you should be the light in the darkness.
That's right.
Mm,
Because there are lots of scary things in the dark. Be the light and the safety.
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree.
Love that.
And
Well,
with that, Blake, any
okay.
final thoughts? Yeah.
I was gonna say any final thoughts. I'll say mine. I think that I don't know, before you jump on the bandwagon of saying that you're celebrating, you know, the devil's holiday or something like that, like do a little bit of research, you know, and try and figure out. I think it goes for everything. Try and figure out what you're actually I don't know, out there celebrating, because it's not all bad. It's all about community. It's all about fun. I think giving a little bit of perspective of what Halloween truly represents is a beautiful thing. I think that their belief system was beautiful and honoring their ancestors and all of that. I try to do that every single day of my life, and so I think that having a night dedicated to it is just a beautiful thing. So go out, celebrate, have fun, dress up, go be a kid. If you're an adult, go have fun. Even if you're not going door to door knocking with your kids, dress up, have fun, be somebody else for a night.
Yeah.
Chad Wandell, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, you know, Halloween to us has never been a negative type of thing. And my dad was a pastor. And so we never thought of it that way. We always thought of it as a time to celebrate those that came before us, to honor their legacy and their remembrance, and to tell people about them so that one, our family traditions and our oral traditions of our family can keep going, because that's a huge portion of what culture is keeping these things alive. Because if we let them die, then we've lost culture, and it happens too much. So we need to keep our culture alive, and the best way to do that is our oral traditions. So pass them down. Talk about those people that came before us.
Love
I
that.
love that. And my final thought, gentlemen, is that I think that my favorite part of Halloween not only is the dressing up and being someone else, because that is freeing in itself, it's about giving. Giving. It's giving to these little kids. You are creating joy and light in their life. Anybody that comes to your door, I'm with you, Chad. Uh, you come to my door and knock, you're getting candy. That's just all
Yep.
there is to it. And always remember that the light is yours to give. So, with that, Blake, why don't you tell them everything they need to know?
All right, well, bear with us. We got a couple of announcements right here at the end. If you want to support the show directly, check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/EVP podcast. For just $5 a month, you'll unlock over 450 Patreon exclusive videos, including the pre and post broadcast, which are the 30 minutes before and the 30 minutes after this live broadcast. So you're getting an additional hour with us each week. Your support from this goes directly back to the show and towards the adventures we bring you week after week. And if you are not sure about joining Patreon, you can try it risk-free with our 7-day free trial. Make sure you stay connected with us. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, many more by searching Everything Vaguely Paranormal, looking for that green sound wave. And remember, you can catch us live every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook and YouTube. And if you'd like to meet us in person, come hang out. You do have a couple additional choices before we go on hiatus for the year. Shout out first and foremost for Mr. Chad Wandell at the Old Park Hotel. Friday, October 31st, the Old Park Hotel will be having their first ever Halloween bash, including includes DJ finger foods and an open bar. General admission tickets get you in for all the festivities, and VIP tickets include the VIP after party and the slum party. Chad, do y'all still have tickets available for VIP?
No VIP, general admission, yes.
All right, general admission only. So skip what I just said about VIP tickets.
But it's a casino party. Let's go.
You missed out.
Yes. Yep, you missed out. Also, this weekend, October 29th through November the 1st, we will be at Lorefest 2025 at Texas A&M, where we'll be doing a whole slew of things from ghost hunts classes, including a spot as a keynote speaker. So November 22nd, we will be at the KMFA Austin Studios in Austin, Texas for the Strange and Extraordinary Fest 2025, along with Theories of a Third Kind podcast, Indie Parahouse, Night Owl podcast, Brandon Hodge, and of course our good friends Damian Shalacy and Nicole Ricardo with the Parapeculiar Museum of Haunted Items. Tickets
and
for
Greg
that
Lawson.
And Greg Lawson. Tickets for that can be purchased at strangeandextraordinaryfest.com. Make sure you subscribe to our Eventbrite page as well to be notified when public investigation tickets go on sale, because we are actively planning our entire next year for 2026. And to make it easier, we've added all these linked to our link tree, which will be on Everything Vaguely Paranormal Facebook and X profiles Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, as well as in all of our show notes for you audio listeners. Or you can search linktr.ee/Everything Vaguely Paranormal. We are grateful for your continued support. Every like, comment, share, and download keeps the adventures alive. So if you have a favorite episode, share it with your friends. One of the easiest things you can do to help us out with our show and its rankings, wherever you're listening from, give us a review. Download our episodes. Those simple things right there help to bump us up in the ratings, and we greatly appreciate it. Also, if you have a story, comment, or question, or you'd like to be a guest on the show or have us as guests on your show, email us at the evppod@gmail.com. That is THEEVPPOD@gmail.com.
Go like, share, and subscribe to that YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up. Hey, you know what? You're sitting here watching right now. Hit that thumbs up button. It's all good.
Absolutely. Well, y'all, we thank y'all so much for joining us for another weekly episode of Everything Vaguely Paranormal. As always, I am Blake Smith. My partners in the paranormal for tonight, Miss Shelley Pruitt, Mr. Chad Wandell. We love y'all. Thank y'all so much. And as always, we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.